You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the August 15th, 2022 meeting of the Michigan City Port Authority Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Welcome to the Michigan City Port Authority Board of Directors meeting, August 15th. I call the meeting to order and looking for approval or corrections of August 1st, 22nd meeting minutes.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of August 22nd, was it? 21st? First?
It was
21st.
first. It was first.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, comments from the public. We have anyone with any comments that want to be made? Nope. Okay. Report from the harbor master, Mr. Frame.
All right. Since last time we had the big superboat race, overall I think it went pretty well. Traffic was a large improvement over previous years, and I attribute that to the city event coordinator, Terry Greetham's new traffic system with the sequential gates for parking going down the other way. He and I talked about that afterwards, and I think we're going to add a gate sign up on our side as well, just to follow that theme. The race itself went pretty well. They had a couple of, I guess you'd call them mishaps in the various races, but that's kind of the nature of that business. We assisted where we could, and Sunday I think the weather held off a lot of the crowd. It didn't seem as busy on Sunday as it was on Saturday, but it rained off and on a lot on Sunday. In the meantime, at this point now, we're winding down, so we're getting ready for haul out and making sure everything is going as routine. So unless anybody has any questions, I'll leave it at that for now.
Hearing no questions, we're going to move on to the Assistant Harbor Master, Ms. Plicky.
The city is moving to being able to get your paychecks online now to see, instead of handing out a physical paycheck stub, which a couple people have seen it and went into it. It looks like it's going to be a very nice system. I also went through pulling the names of the people who didn't come in till after the all the fireworks, all the electric was back on the docks. I came up with 23, but I need to check them again to make sure that they weren't moving from slip to slip as we move people. And I had someone that was out for 4 days last week, so it put us a little behind on that. So that's all I have.
Any questions? Anybody else? Any questions?
That with completion of that, that would help resolve the issue we have of take back.
The people that didn't come in at all.
Yep.
Right.
That would take care of that
Yes.
whole issue of all three areas or so that we were talking about. Oh, that was the only undone one.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
getting that
Thank you.
equation. All right, reports from committee. Saying Mr. Ferguson, budget and financial oversight, review and approve the bills.
Good afternoon, everyone. You've got your cover sheet. Everyone has. Those list all the items. I'd just like to touch base on a couple of them. The bigger ones, other than that, they're pretty straightforward, and I'll just probably leave it up for questions. But you've got a pretty good chunk for city ice. Water department also coming down. Wayne Heating, the heating and air conditioning unit broke down. You can see those numbers. And fuel being the other big one for $60,000. The second page shows a big item there for the sales tax revenue that we pay back to the state that we collect. Other than that, that's the $12,000 of the $18,000. So that pretty well covers about $85,000-90,000 of the $100,000 we have to pay. I know I didn't cover all of those, but if you want to look at those and if you have any questions, I think that would be, now's a good time to bring them up. And with that though, I'll make a motion that we do accept the bills for $100,271.38 as stated.
Second.
Question on the upgrades for the choke rate forklift. What was that, so everybody knows?
They're going to be using an iPad to check the bolts in and out.
Okay.
Give a daily report for the amount of time that it takes the drivers to move them.
Very good. Okay.
Anything else with that, Ryan?
You just about covered it. There's a vision in that whole thing, folks, of automating our systems down there, so we can actually get some real-time data on how long it's taking us to move boats, how many times we're actually moving the boats for those customers, and kind of get a sense of how much labor we're actually throwing at this in and out service. Make sure that we're covering our bases financially as well.
Good. That's good stuff.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I saw something on here, and Marianne explained it to me. Maybe she should let the other people know about what's going on with that. This Low-Sang Studio, I've never seen that before, so.
That's for Lobson side. That's what I was talking, that the one that he does the programs for the Port Authority, and they're doing it for the forklift down at Trail Creek, trying to automate the times and things.
That's what they call that, Low-Sang?
Lobson, yeah.
Lobsang, whatever.
Studio.
Yeah, Lobsang, okay, thank you.
I just thought I'd just touch base for a second. Every time we go to pay bills, almost, we have these credit card fees, and I'm presuming that those are something like what we collect for like sales tax, or using for credit cards and various other things.
Those are the fees that we pay for the credit cards, the people when we use the service.
Okay.
But there's one office, one at the gas staff, the paint pals
Right.
is they're all different.
Okay. And that's on.
And they come in
almost every
single, so I
month.
listed them single.
Gotcha. Clarified that. Thank you.
All right, we have one motion to pay the bills. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's all I have.
Mr. Haynes, claims and insurance.
I have nothing to report. I think everything's going pretty well.
All right, Port Operations, Personal Marina. I know you need a little bit of help part-time, but that's windows closing. So that's, you might have to operate on what you have. Probably pretty much there. We'll cover the last week's items at the end after we go through everybody else. So I don't have anything else to go over. Anybody else have any questions on anything going on? Okay, moving forward. Mr. Messina, Voter Communications Special Events.
Report, we have the doc rep meeting this past Saturday, 9 o'clock, here in the meeting room. I think we had more board members and office personnel attend than we did actual representatives from the docs. So that part doesn't seem to be working well. We don't know if it's reason why, but we're going to sit down and talk about it and make sure that each rep from each doc is notified when we do have meetings. But it was a good meeting. We talked about things. Tim covered a lot of, Mr. Frame covered a lot of the stuff on the boat races and how the entrance is where and exits. Covered, someone had a question on the restrooms and stuff over at the 400 and 500 dock and back over here that they need upgrading. And Mr. Frame said it's on their list to be done coming up. So that was there. Cameras, he reviewed a little bit about cameras and how they're going to work. He updated everybody on the electrical system at the 700, 800 dock. Gave them an update on that. We had one person asked about employees, that there doesn't seem to be enough employees to take care of the gas dock, do any security that we have. And Mrs. Pilecki kind of said that all the college students we had went back to school and also the high school students. So I think they're in the process of looking for some part-time people to come in and man these things. Well, that's pretty much all I have for the dock rep.
All right. Mr. Manner, Master Planning and Special Projects, Public Ladies Office.
I was wondering if we were going to talk about the, I don't have anything for the park department. If you had planned on talking about this this pay situation with the refund for this fellow that left.
I was going to go through all the committees and then we could go over that.
Okay,
Just make it easy.
thank you.
Clear the document, that way we can go forward.
I have nothing else then.
I asked him the same thing earlier.
Ms. Buechner, Advertising Public Relations.
Nothing new to report.
Very good. And the best of reports of them all, the attorney's report, Mr. Deckman.
As of July 26th, that was the last update I received from Blue Chip's attorney. They were waiting on Meridian Title to provide some documentation, deeds and other documents so that their engineer can complete his work for Blue Chip and then prepare the report that supposedly is going to go to the general manager, and then perhaps the general manager will share that report with me through their attorney, and then I, of course, will share it with the board. But apparently the engineer is still working on it and still gathering documentation. A letter is going to go out to a slip holder addressing a noise complaint and I guess the use of, or the wrongful use of a jet ski within the harbor, some donuts and racing, I guess, back and forth. So a letter is going to go out from my office reminding that slip holder of the rules and regulations, and that this board retains the authority and discretion to deny a slip license for any subsequent year based on violations of the rules and regulations. I think there's going to be something brought up at the end of the meeting regarding a refund, and I'd be happy to address that with my thoughts at that time. But that's all I have at this time.
Well, you might as well go with your thoughts on that because that's where we're going to.
Okay, well, as I explained, as I understand it, there was a request from a slip holder to terminate his slip license and receive a prorated refund based on what the slip holder claimed was an unduly long wait before he was able to either launch his boat or pick up his boat. I'm unclear on which it was, but he has, I guess, on several occasions asked if the board will allow him to terminate and receive a prorated refund. The board, of course, has the authority to act in what it perceives to be the Port Authority's best interest, and that includes the discretion to, on a case-by-case basis, not setting some general rule, on a case-by-case basis to examine the facts and circumstances and decide whether it wants to terminate, allow a slip holder to terminate a license and issue a pro rata refund. One of the things that I think is most important in that decision is whether the Port Authority would be able to re-let that slip. In other words, there wouldn't be any loss of revenue if the slip holder was allowed to terminate. And if that's the case, and as I understand, we have a long list of people that are trying to get in, and we could probably either on an overnight basis or some other short-term basis replace the revenue that would be lost. It seems to me that to avoid the possibility of some adverse social media or adverse word of mouth that gets spread around about the Port Authority, if the board wants to exercise its discretion and allow this slip holder to terminate, again, on a case-by-case basis, not setting any precedent that you can at any time just come in and ask for a refund, a prorated refund, and terminate your license, the board could and should exercise it in this case. At least that's my view, my recommendation.
Sir?
What was he asking for the full refund? I can't remember.
Prorated.
No. I heard Joe say prorated, but what would that amount to, like 90% or something like that? Or roughly?
Yeah. I don't even remember how much the ground rack is.
Okay.
I'm guessing probably $1,400, $1,300.
Okay. Thank you. That's close enough for me.
I think the only way that I would support something like this is if it was a case of an emergency. This is not an emergency. This is just a fellow who decided he didn't want to be here because he didn't like the weight to put his boat in. And we don't make refunds after, what is it, June the 1st? June the 1st is, after June the 1st, we don't make refunds. If you have an emergency situation, I can understand it. But just to have a guy to say, well, I don't want to be here anymore because I got to wait too long to get my boat put in, there's no emergency involved in that. That's the only way I would support this. That's just my opinion.
John?
It's a good thought.
With the forklift situation, I knew we had it broke down for a little while. And had that delay, in fact, with...
It was personnel.
We had two issues. One is we have a bunch of new drivers.
Okay.
And the second one is we had I guess a scheduling misunderstanding. So we only had one driver there instead of two.
Okay.
So in that window, things backed up a little bit.
Okay.
Between the one that was there being relatively new, and my opinion with the new drivers are I'd rather you be slow than quick and break something.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Jay?
When was the date that the complaint come in?
Well, right after Father's Day. Father's Day is where we had the delay.
Gotcha.
And this customer was looking for a 5-minute turnaround time.
I don't know if you ever see a 5-minute turnaround.
Right.
Not in my lifetime, I've never seen it.
I like Bruce's comment. I really do. I think it's very valid. My big thing is not to set a precedent, whatever we do, just for what we talked about. Having somebody say, well, you know, I don't want it anymore, I want to get out. But if you're convinced that it's, you know, we're not doing a precedent type thing, you know, it makes better sense.
Well, anything after the 1st of June, this has to be voted on.
I
I
understand.
mean, that's the precedence right there. I mean, it's, you know, so if we do something from here, it's more, okay, how's the outside gonna look at us?
I understand. That's good too.
I mean, it's twofold.
Yeah, I understand that, but, I mean, maybe it doesn't set a precedent, but, I mean, our voters are gonna know that we did this, and, they're gonna ask for the same thing.
Well,
You know, if they wanna bail out of here, they feel that they should get a refund also. I mean, I just don't, well, I stated my case.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
the one thing I would, in addition to what has been said, we currently have a waiting list for pretty much all these spots. So Port Authority's not gonna be out any money because we can put somebody else right in that empty rack. Now, if we didn't have a waiting list, then maybe there's reasons to, you know, think about it differently, but we would put somebody right back in there.
Well, that's not necessarily true. We are gonna be out money, because we're giving this man money back that we already received. So we're gonna lose, what, close to $2,000 or something? I mean, we're gonna lose money. If we give this man a refund, we've lost that money.
But if the next guy we put in there,
I understand what you're saying. I understand. But the next guy you put in there will be for the following year.
no, the rest of this year, we would call the next guy on the waiting list and say,
And
we
he
got a
would have
spot
to pay
open.
that?
Based on where we are
Okay.
in year, he would
Okay.
pick up from where it is.
Gotcha.
As our attorney mentioned, I would probably be inclined to give him a refund so we would not hear any repercussions through social media, through any other voters' communication, anybody talking. I think it would appease him if we gave him a refund and probably keep his mouth shut.
So my whole opinion is, okay, if we do this refund, should we put a time limit on when he could actually return to the marina? So there is a consequence at the end. Because, oh, I want to change my mind, I want to get back in and get back on the list. Do we put him out for 3 years before you can get back on the list?
Or should you go to the bottom of the list?
So, you know, I'm just throwing that out there because I just don't want to make it too easy for you just to bail, like you said. You know, and not be in this quandary so they know what's coming.
Good thought.
Well, would be able to just say he can't be on a rack because with the elements that are happening, he could come and be at Trail Creek Marina because that doesn't rely on a forklift. But I mean, there's elements that we can't guarantee everything. And I don't think we have a thing when they sign up that your boat's going to be in within, 30 minutes or, I don't think we have that clause in there or anything, so that's not something you can argue with.
Right.
But I don't know if that's, so he's not totally banned, but
Right.
yeah.
Any other thoughts on that?
I'm really waiting for anybody. I've already spoken twice. I don't want to take the time up for anybody else.
So, what do we want to do on this case?
I'm curious as to what the prorate comes down to. What do we give them back?
What's it?
It take off the $200 and then
Basically.
about 2.5 months of fees.
So it'll be about, he's gonna get about 70%, be my guess.
Yeah, of what, like 2,000 or?
Under two.
Isn't it?
I
I
don't
think
think
it's
it's that high.
1,500 maybe. per-
1,500 bucks.
Yeah.
That area.
Okay. Looking for someone to.
Ready for a motion?
Mm-hmm.
Make a motion, we prorate the refund and notify the next person in line for the slip.
I have a motion. You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Questions?
Wait a minute.
Can we have a roll call?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yep.
I'd like to have a roll call on that.
Mr. Manor?
Nay?
Whoa. I have a question. We had a second.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, that's all. We had a second and I'd like to, it's time for comments, right?
Okay.
Before you vote. I like the idea that you said maybe put them at the bottom of a recall list or something of that nature to make accountable. I thought that was a pretty good idea. If you went along with that, if you would like to amend your motion, if that's, if that's okay.
I got a question for Joe then. Would that set a precedence that every time someone cancels, they go to the bottom of the list, or is that just, or does Tim have the authority to do that on his own?
Would it make it easier to have
Well,
it
I
3
think
years
Ms.
out?
Palicki,
They'd have to go onto a waiting list and they would be at the
Right,
bottom anyway.
right.
Yeah,
That's normally how.
that's how we do it.
Yeah, it's already,
so that precedent is already
already
set.
set, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if we do that, you'll have to change your motion then.
My motion didn't.
Because that's already
Yeah,
policy.
it's already possible.
Already the
It's already policy.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're gonna do roll call now?
If you want. Mr. Manor?
Nay?
Ms.
Aye.
Mander? Mr. Messina?
Aye.
Mr. Childers?
Nay.
Mr. Haynes?
Aye.
Mr. Ferguson?
Man. Aye.
And we have it in favor of 4 to 2.
There we go. Moving on. Then we have to bring up the dinghy conversation. And Tim has some good thoughts on that, so I'm gonna let him speak in that manner.
Well, if you recall, last time I asked everybody to take a look through our rules and regulations book for anything that we need to update, change, add, whatever. But in specific, the section on dinghies, we've tried to be super flexible on dinghies. The rule book states they should fit in the confines of the slip. For various reasons, they don't fit within confines of the slip. Sometimes people end up growing in their boat size till they fill their slip. We don't necessarily have a larger slip to put them in. So we've kind of taken the position that as long as it's not interfering with the neighbors, we're not going to get too excited about it. This year we have an instance where a fella has put what I would call a boat on the back of his dock, 21 Bayliner to be specific. That's the same kind of boat we have on the rack at Trail Creek. I would not consider that a dinghy. But when I had the conversation with that customer, he pointed out that he's not sticking out any further than anybody else, and he's not actually in anybody's way. And in his particular location, that is technically true, though I don't feel that he's following the spirit of it. You know, in my mind, a dinghy is an inflatable or a small boat, probably with an outboard, that you can putz around on rather than take your big boat out. This is another boat, you know.
So he has two boats in one slip?
Yeah, and they're not, I wouldn't call it in the slip.
They're nowhere near it.
He's overlapping the slip.
He's hugging the finger pier and closest to the,
Right.
the easy ramp.
So what I'd like to come up with is a better definition that takes into account different size ranges. I mean, we have everything from an 8-foot complete inflatable to a 10-foot rigid hull inflatable to a 15-foot Boston Whaler. All of those I can understand fall into a dinghy. I don't consider a 21 Bayliner a dinghy. But anyway, in talking to Colin, our engineer, he suggested that we look at a square footage section off the end of the actual slip space, which I thought was an interesting idea. Sam Ferguson provided some definitions from the internet, most of which include an outboard or oars. In later thinking about it, I'm thinking we would want to pick a length. So let's say we go a foot or 2 foot less than the width of your slip, right? So it can overhang off the back. Maybe we want to put a limit as to how far off the back it can hang, but also a width limit so you're not overlapping into the neighbors, right? The slip this fella's in is not 21 feet wide. I would also suggest that we have some language in there that if it does have a motor, it would be an outboard. Now, you also might want to consider that a jet ski is its own category, because a jet ski doesn't have an outboard, doesn't have an IO. It's a completely different thing, but jet skis are so narrow and short, you're unlikely to overlap on anything with a jet ski. I mean, you can't go in and say, I want a 20-foot jet ski. I don't think anybody makes one.
Jet boats.
Well, right. Yeah, but then
Yeah, it's not the same.
you could follow the same thing. It can't be wider than this or longer than that. So that would be my suggestion. We pick a length coming out from the slip that it has to fit in and a horizontal width. You know, let's say you're in a 40-foot slip and it's 15 feet wide is what your slip measures. You gotta pick a number, 14, 13, whatever it is, it's gotta fit in that space. And if it doesn't fit in that space, then it's gotta go either in its own slip or in a rack or something at Trail Creek.
I'd like to make a suggestion that we send this to committee, have our president appoint a committee to sit down and work with Tim and study this thing and find out what we can do about this.
All right.
It's just a suggestion.
We can get that too.
I know Tim's been looking for input from various sources. And I the committee is a good idea. I think it's a good suggestion, but that might limit what comments you might get from other people if we just did a committee. I don't just throw it in.
Well, the committee just makes recommendations to the board. It can be talked about some more, so that's not a problem.
Good point.
We can do that. Mr. Messina.
I made a comment to the office staff, instead of calling them dinghies, call them an additional vessel that's in your slip. That way you don't have to worry about a motor or a non-motor. And another thing, at the start of this year, we had a gentleman come in that got fined an additional because his bow pulpit on a sailboat was out 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
We fined him. I thought we must have already had a policy in place for anything that sticks out has to.
He's just paying the overage.
Yeah, well.
That's a standard thing. There's multiple people out here that pay the overage.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people, because I get told.
Why not charge these people then to out?
Well, you have to have guidelines of what they can put there.
Yeah.
Not only that, I mean, that's gonna be the next part of the equation. Okay, what's this, and then where we go next? So, you know, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but there's a little bit more to just one piece of the puzzle. So, yeah, probably doing the committee on it would be the best scenario.
I'd given Tim what I found some definitions, so not that they're right or wrong, but just what my research was. I also put just a little bit of commentary, and I'll just read my quick commentary. And I said, rather than further define what a dinghy is, I suggest adding some wording to the rules and regulations section of our manual to read something like this. Dinghies are defined in the traditional manner. Clarification as to what are or are not dinghies would be solely reserved to the harbor master to decide. Because my thought here is that we can redefine what we think is a dinghy or a boat or whatever, and we can do that till hell freezes over, but I think we would still be looking at people that are trying to get around that all the time and maybe not even get around this issue. So, we should do what we're going to do. I think the committee's a good idea, but that would be something I think we should also consider, because Tim's got the authority to do all sorts of stuff here.
But the problem is it doesn't give the slip holders notice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It doesn't give them notice of what would be considered a dinghy and what would not, if it's in the discretion of the harbor master.
Whatever we have here, I just don't feel we need to try to redefine what a wheel is. Wheel is something round that goes round and round.
Right, but I thought you said that it will be defined by the harbor master.
No, I said it is. Dinghies are defined already in the traditional manner.
And then you went on.
Yeah, anybody can look out what a dinghy is, and it's pretty well defined.
But then didn't you go on to say?
I said in the traditional manner, clarification as to what they really are or are not are reserved for the harbor master. Something like that.
Right, it's the clarification part that I'm really
Well, I was trying to be kind of general just to give more. Anyway, the idea is give more authority to Tim to decide.
Right, but in the balance, I think we want to give more notice.
And
definition, as opposed to not taking away the harbor master's authority, but we'd be better off providing more notice and certainty than we would anything that gives discretion to the harbor master.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah, I even suggested putting that into the booklet at the start of the year, something like that. Let's see. That was just an idea. I think the committee's a good idea. The president.
I think we won't go with the committee then. That sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna put Chad on the committee for sure, because he has definitely. The comments and everything will be after the meeting. There'll be a time for you to do that. Yep, there'll be time for that. So definitely want to chat on it because he understands the little boats and motors better than all of us. And then probably Mr. Messina also, because you spend most of your time out there too. If that's fine with you guys. I think that'll work.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll set up, can you meet Friday morning?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's Friday morning, 10 o'clock?
Yep.
All right. There you go. There's that.
Maybe just make a comment. I know we have boaters out here that have an additional vessel that have rented a separate slip, even though it possibly could fit in their front.
We're peeling the lid right off her. We'll figure this one out. And no, everybody's not going to be happy. That's just the way the world works.
And this is really a safety issue.
Right.
I mean, it's not trying to gain more revenue for us. It's trying to make sure people can get their boats in and out.
Yeah, that's not easy for me to do. So yeah, I can think of a lot of space turnaround in that fairway, kids. That's for sure. Then, what else did we have on? We had 4 things. Did we cover the 2 last week? Nope. All right, then I'll bring up the Michigan City Yacht Club needing the space on the wall. Rack and privileges for the tri-state race. What's that? Part of this here.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see, pass these. Pass along. And,
Everyone's got one?
You got one?
yeah, we got you.
I'm Kurt Filbert, I'm on the board of directors for Michigan City Yacht Club. And I'm here to ask for the support of the Port Authority Board in our running of the tri-state race coming up in a couple of weeks. The board has been very supportive of that event, and we appreciate it, and we need the help, the kind of help that you provide. Usually I'm asking for support for 2 events, but the perfection race was a little bit too close. We had the MAC, and then we had the tri-state. There wasn't enough room in between to develop 2 events, so we're 1 event. About 25 yachts are anticipated, and we ask that the participants of the race be given permission to raft up along Trail Creek. And in the sailing instructions, they can also call the Port Authority for a transient slip. That's up to them. Let's see. We ask that you allow rafting up free of charge. That's the way it's run at every yacht club, and we don't want to be off-putting. In the past, we have asked for portable toilets, and we're not asking for that this year. I think that we're going to use some toilets furnished by the Junior Sail for their students. So that is my pitch. And, one last thing. This would be a cost. We ask that you furnish a security guard for the tri-state event, and barricades to keep traffic out. Where the event takes place, the party takes place in the pavilion, the awards party, and that's nothing good. That's what usually happens. Mm-hmm. And we ask that you furnish the guard, because I don't think I'm qualified or anybody else to manage that kind of security.
Sounds good to me.
I think that's my pitch.
I think this is pretty much what we've done for you folks every year.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful thing that we do, and I'm very much in support of that tri-state race.
Thank you.
And I'd like to make a motion that we grant your wishes.
I second that.
Anybody, anything else? All in favor?
Are we pretty free that weekend? We have no other activities going on? And we're able to secure a security guard if need be?
That I don't know. The police officers aren't as easy to get as they have been in the past, but
That's fine. So pending you get an officer,
yeah.
security, the motion?
I'm talking a police officer.
Okay.
Security.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
You're good.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem. Not a problem. All right, so just can't really pretty much put it there. All right, guest recognitions. Anybody, somebody wants to make a comment?
Zach, brought to my attention that you said you couldn't get workers for the dock. Perhaps you wonder why there aren't any workers at our gate. we don't have any, but they all left, so if anybody asks, there isn't a charge. We just don't have the people.
People to do. Yes, sir.
My comment's gonna be a little long-winded. My boat got stolen last week, so I'm gonna talk about that. But regarding the comment about the police department, one of the police department detectives that I'm working with about this boat issue said that they have a waiting list for police officers that want to work security. It's just for public knowledge that you know. So there's plenty of security available if you wanted to hire a police department. But if it's an appropriate time now, I'd like to talk about my situation.
Well, you make comments. We're not going to have a back and forth session, but well, you can make your comments.
So on August 5th, my wife and I brought our boat back to slip 113 and put the boat away at 6:30 at night. At 7 o'clock, a man jumped over your fence and took my boat for a ride. And Tim has been great and very cooperative, and the police have been fabulous, and there's video and everything catching this man. So all that'll play out as it does. But what my concerns are how did this guy get away with this? You know, and obviously he's able to watch us put our boat away, which means that he's unencumbered walking around the marina area, which leads back to something that I think concerns a lot of us boaters here today is there's very little enforcement, if any, on the parking decals that we're supposed to have on the car. And there's very little technical support, although the cameras worked in this case, but last year with that one boat got knocked off its stands, the cameras didn't work. Why can't we have a more current state-of-the-art camera system that protects all our interests? But in my particular case, the police officer is a woman named Dee Ford. She's a detective. She has worked with Tim. We've been going back and forth. Tim has got video of this event. What I'm hoping to hear as a customer since 1999 here is that the Port Authority wants to prosecute this man, not just me. Because this man climbed over your transformer, jumped over your fence, let other people in the gate, and stole my boat. So I guess what I'm asking tonight is, what does the Port Authority want to do about that?
Well, Mr. Jack Noon will take that all into consideration, and we'll get back with you on that stance, because that's the man that would handle this part of it. So we're not going to just make a broad statement.
No, I understand.
But, yeah, but I get your concern. I mean, I'm on the 800 dock, and so I mean, it's just as capable of somebody doing it at the same place.
The idea of somebody standing outside the fence watching any boater put their boat away and taking it for a ride a half hour later, which is all documented with all kinds of evidence now, is just distasteful to all of us, you know.
Yep.
But I mean, at Trail Creek, I'm a customer on the rack, I'm a customer in the harbor. If you stand on Trail Creek on a busy Saturday afternoon, there'll be 10 cars parked in the work rack area, not one will have a decal on it. And that we are asking as boaters, and some of my friends are here today, to start enforcing the rules that are in place. Enforce the decals, enforce, you know, behavior that people have to come and get guest passes, whatever it's going to be, to provide some modicum of security to all of us. You know, and improve your camera system. Your camera's got to be 30 years old. You know, you get Wi-Fi, you could put $20 cameras all over the harbor. So, in the meantime, the police department wanted to know if I wanted to press charges, and I'm going to, but I would rather see the Port Authority take the lead on this, because it's not just my problem, it's actually your problem.
Well, that is a matter we would have to discuss in an executive session.
No, I understand, but I mean, but think about it, you guys charge a certain amount of fee, and you provide the implication or the presumption that you have security, you have cameras, you have gate passes, you have parking issues. But in reality, very little of that is in place or enforced. And that's disappointing to all of us, especially in these days and times. I mean, it's a different day. Fair enough. And I appreciate the time, and I've been here since '99. I love the effort everybody makes it. Had a great time, my friends had a good time. But this is just very disappointing to see somebody take my boat for a ride. Thank you.
I agree.
You second that?
Anybody else with any comment?
Yeah. Follow up on what Jim said. You talked a little bit earlier about you don't want bad press or communications out there to the public about this. And I would think, back into what Jim said about the Port Authority taking a lead on this and maybe going after this guy or prosecuting this guy, I don't think anybody at the table wants to hear that, hey, somebody can jump the fence and go in and do this, and the Port Authority just kind of says, oh, we don't want any part of this. You know, we're not going to
you know, we're not gonna pursue this. It's not our boat, it's not our concern. I think that's really a bad image to put out for the Port Authority as far as the marina and the public, that somebody else out there can say, well, hey, this guy did this and they didn't do anything to him, so yeah, let's jump the fence again and go in and see what we can do. And I think that's something you guys really need to look at, because the boaters in here are concerned about that. I had another comment about, you guys talked about the jet ski guy that was out here and doing donuts and running up and down. I don't know whether he was arrested for DUI or whatever, but I hope there was something done besides that, other than just a letter sent to him that says, hey, you know.
Nobody on the scene called the police or called the Coast Guard.
Really?
Nobody did. None of the boaters that were directly involved did anything that at that time could have moved that forward.
Okay, is that what you would prefer boaters do? I mean, I was on the back of our boat when the guy came down the gas dock between 200 and 300.
Right.
Came down on plane, made some comments to some people on the dock or on the patio, turned around and full throttle out.
Yeah,
You know.
we don't have law enforcement ability,
Okay.
but there's a Coast Guard station right there, and they love pulling people over for DUIs.
Right.
And so I don't understand why nobody over there called and said, hey, this guy, you know, you guys need to talk to him. Same thing on the lake. Coast Guard, the DNR, Long Beach Police, that's what they do on all holiday weekends, is they're looking for impaired boating and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So I was a bit surprised. It happened around 7:30, 8 o'clock, something at a party they had going on over
Yep.
there.
That was, yeah.
But everybody was upset about it, but nobody took it to the next step.
Okay.
You know, I just thought that was odd.
Well, I had heard that
You know.
he got caught later on.
Well, he's a slip holder over there.
Right. Well, as I said, I heard he got caught later on that evening doing donuts around the fountain over here or whatnot.
Well, I didn't hear that. I just heard about what happened over here, but
Okay. My last thing is, you talked about the restrictions within the slips, which brings, I have a question about this. Are there restrictions of what you can put in the slip? And I'm saying, my question is, if you have a 45-foot slip, and you're renting a 45-foot slip, and you're 16 feet wide, or I don't know exactly what they're, 14 feet wide by 45 feet. If I had a 30-foot boat in that slip, and I brought a 15-foot boat in behind that, on a diagonal or whatever, and I wasn't hanging out past the end of the slip,
right.
and I wasn't impeding my neighbors
Right.
anywhere, you talked about a dinghy or whatnot.
Right.
Would
Yeah.
that violate your,
Not the way it's currently written. We don't, if it fits in the confines of your slip, well, I don't care what it is.
okay, well, when I heard you talking about, well, somebody else had a 21-foot boat that was in there and it
Well-
kind of didn't go along with the language of the
Well,
dinghy.
the problem we have in that case, I have a 41-foot boat and a 40-foot slip.
Okay.
So he's already oversized for
Okay, I
that
didn't know
spot.
exactly what to situate, that's why I
Yeah.
wanted to ask.
A good example is right out back here, Mr. Poochhaven. He's got a 40-foot slip. I think he's got a 32-foot boat. And he ties up his own jet ski raft back there for his 2 jet skis. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
You know, we don't want to mount lifts and stuff in there, but as long as you can tie it in there,
Okay.
I'm fine with whatever's inside the slip.
My last comment on the restrictions within the slip is I've kind of got
Yeah.
something going on in my mind.
Right.
Does it have to be a boat?
No.
As long as it floats.
Pardon me, can it be a floating cabin?
Well, we kind of have a floating office with, we have a
No,
floating,
I'm serious.
we
Can
have-
it be a floating tiny house?
we have a floating office with Freedom Boat Club.
And
Yeah.
that was going to be my next comment was, I know there is a floating little office over there. And the reason I'm asking that is because we tend to day boat more than anything else. So why do we need a 40-foot
Right.
sea ray and slip if we kind of day boat. And if I was to put a floating cabin in there, I'm not talking about something that's shabby junk. You know, I'm talking about a floating cabin, tiny house or whatever it might be. And I chose to put my day boat in behind it within the restrictions of the slip requirements. Is that an issue?
I would think we'd want to talk about it, but just offhand, personally, not speaking for the Port Authority, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. I mean, I could see where, you know, you don't want a bunch of, I don't know what you might say, camper trailers or whatnot, you know, barges. I get that. But I'm just asking, you know, is that an option or is it a possibility?
No rope roofing.
No rope. Okay. Thank you.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right. Anybody else like to make a comment?
Can I add one thing to what I said? Officer Ford, Detective Ford, asked me to give her phone number to the board so there's no delay in interaction. Can I do that?
Sure.
Okay. So her number is 219-214-8326. Her name is Dee Ford. She's a detective. And she said this is a felony theft case that she's pursuing on this boat theft. So
Sure.
I'm 100% behind him on this stuff. That's bullshit. I'm glad it wasn't my boat, okay? We'd have serious problems. But any progress on the birds?
We have a laser on order. I'm expecting it this week.
What is it, Jim?
A laser.
Okay.
I found a paper from the Department of Agriculture back in 2002 where they were dispersing cormorants from roosts in the Mississippi Delta, and they were using a bird dispersion laser.
Okay.
So I ordered one.
Okay.
And in talking to the Coast Guard and the state ornithologist and the Fish and Wildlife people, they're all fine with that.
Okay, so do we still have you okay to shoot them?
I can't.
We know nothing.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is that a specific type of laser different than other laser guns?
Yeah.
What's the difference between that laser and a...
They're running a specific frequency and a dispersion pattern. So they sell it as a bird dispersion thing. You can get them in different strengths to go different distances. There were two that I found that were mentioned in that paper. Color-wise, I don't think they're much different than like your cat toy. But I think it sets a bigger dot, you know, so you sweep it through the tree and they don't like how it looks.
The reason I ask is I've tried a laser on them, pretty powerful one, and it didn't phase them.
Really?
It does phase the geese.
Yeah. Well, I'll get you a copy of that paper.
Okay.
So you can see it. Yeah.
If you need somebody to man that for you, let us know.
I may take you up on it.
I'm serious. Yeah, we'll be more than happy to do what we can to get
We
rid
will
of
take care of them.
Yeah.
All right, any other comments from anybody there? We're all good there?
Cut open. That's good fun.
All right.
Who they do? Yeah.
Seeing nothing else, I'm looking for a motion.
Oh, yeah, first.
Make the motion, we adjourn.
Decide what's on that. Yeah, that's the first population.
By the way, anybody is welcome to walk over to the 100 West tonight after the meeting and look at all the bird shit. Yeah.
Thank you for doing the job.
Here.